African First Ladies in Abidjan to discuss issues affecting women and girls. The Janneh Commission rejects the application filed by Amadou Samba's lawyer to free all assets belonging to her client. Survivors of Kenya's 2007 post-election violence look forward to a peaceful solution to the country's political deadlock. And Zimbabwe introduces a new water meters and billing system to improve revenue collection. Well, viewers, those are the headlines. Thanks for joining us once again. The EU Special Representative for Human Rights, Stavros Lambrinidis, has spoken highly of the government's commitment to human rights and democracy. Mr. Lambrinidis was speaking to GRTS after meeting with President Barrow at Fajara. Mamadou Jallow spoke to the EU official shortly after the meeting.
To congratulate the President for the remarkable democratic transition in the country, for the bravery of the people of the Gambia in moving in this transition, and to reassure him that the European Union will continue to be extremely firmly next to the government and to the people in this transition. It is very inspiring that the Gambia has made this process while emphasizing human rights. Your compass is human rights, and it is both domestically in so many things that you're discussing, the constitutional reform, the security sector reform, the new media openness, but also internationally. I was told that, and I believe that the Gambia can inspire through its example many countries around the world, but also perhaps learn from the experience of other countries around the world. So I hope to be able to work together with the President and the government in that coalition for the good, if you like. So that's what I came here for, and I'm very grateful for the President's time and hospitality.
Because of these discussions that you had with the President, did you discuss specific areas that the Gambia needs to work on or is currently working on as far as human rights is concerned?
I was informed of all the emphasis of the government. I mean, certainly the emphasis on the youth and on employment, the emphasis on prison conditions and rehabilitation, the emphasis on security sector reforms. I mean, all these are big challenges. But the President was able to give a hope that the emphasis on achieving all these through a human rights-inspired policy will ensure that any changes take root and stay in place. And we are standing by the government in this effort. Our support is both moral, if you like, certainly economic, in any other way that the European Union can stand by the Gambia and its people in this transition. We will continue to do so. I came to.
Meanwhile, over 200 human rights activists and experts from Africa and Europe are gathering in Banjul to discuss the continent's human rights situation ahead of the 61st Ordinary Session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Cindy Marena was at the closing of the three-day forum.
Forum on the participation of NGOs in the 61st African Commission on Human and People's Rights comes to an end here in Kairaba Beach Hotel. The forum examined the continent's human rights situation and how best they could improve. The forum aims to foster collaboration and cooperation among its NGOs and the African Commission for the promotion and protection of human rights on the continent, provide a discussion platform for organizations to share ideas and experiences on democracy and human rights issues in the continent, deliberate upon, adopt resolutions or recommendations on specific themes and countries for eventual presentation to the African Commission session for consideration during its sitting in Banjul. The communique issued at the end of the three-day forum, among its other resolutions, to encourage African government to domesticate and implement provision enshrined in the existing regional and international human rights instrument to which they are parties in order to improve the human rights situation in Africa. Held under the theme to engage young people, especially women, in human rights and democracy in Africa, the forum seeks to review the implementation of the African Youth Charter on youth participation in the promotion and protection of human rights, democracy and rule of law. This is the forum preceding the 61st Ordinary Session of the African Commission and the 35th African Human Rights Book Fair to be held in Banjul. Anna Foster is the Executive Director of Banjul-based African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies.
This year we have a landmark participation from over 200 organizations, most of them from all over Africa and outside of Africa, who work on African human rights system and mechanisms. I must confess that they are very interested in the work that they do. They are very engaged.
Delegated participants from various African countries renewed their call for the protection and promotion of human rights on the continent.
The main task of this NGO forum is to come together and brainstorm the human rights challenges and the human rights difficulties that they are encountering in their particular countries, so that they can compile them together and present the case to the African Commission on Human Rights and People's Rights.
The main aim, the main objective of the forum is to gather the African and the international civil society, organizations which work in the field of human rights, and to prepare and to participate to the session of the African Commission on Human and People Rights. We have around 16 interest groups, and all the issues which interest populations and all the Africans are discussed here in the NGO forum in Banjul.
The African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies is the independent non-profit regional human rights NGO based in Banjul and one of the key organizers of NGO Forum in the Gambia. The center seeks to promote awareness and adherence of human rights and democratic principles throughout the African continent. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Seni M.K. Maren.
The First Lady, Her Excellency Madam Fatou Barbaro, has reaffirmed her foundation's commitment to protect the welfare of the girl child. Mrs. Barbaro was speaking recently in the Ivorian capital Abidjan, where she joined a dozen other West African First Ladies for a conference organized by the Ivorian First Lady to discuss issues affecting women and girls. Mamadou Diallo files in this report.
Their counterparts from the Sahel for a high-level conference hosted by Madame Dominique Ouattara, the Ivorian First Lady in the capital Abidjan, under the auspices of our Children of Africa Foundation. The Gambia's First Lady, Her Excellency Madame Fatou Barbaro, led a high-powered delegation. We also included the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Adja Fatoumata Tambadjan, to the convergence. The conference sought to address issues relating to the protection of the girl child and the fight against exploitation and abuse. It also offered participants the platform to share their country peoples on the theme of the convergence. Madame Barbara delivered a speech outlining the concerted efforts of our foundation and the government in protecting the girl child from exploitation and abuse.
It is sad that children are subjected to abuse, violence, exploitation, child labor, and trafficking everywhere, and our sub-region is no exception. A survey conducted in 2010 on child labor in the Gambia sadly confirmed that children are engaged in work, mostly in family businesses and street selling, which is why children abuse, exploitation, trafficking, and begging are now banned in the Gambia. The issue of social protection is a key priority area for the government.
On the sidelines of the conference, the First Ladies discussed the African Union's roadmap which seeks to maximize the demographic dividend on the continent, and later signed a joint communique underlining their commitment to this cause. Mamadou Diallo, GRTS News.
The Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Fatoumata Jallow Tambajang, on Monday received over 81,000 dalasi from two Gambian associations based in Norway. The donation is meant for Kuntaur flood victims. H.N. Silva tells us more.
At a time when disaster victims of the disparaging August floods in Kuntaur are ramping up efforts to recover from the devastating incident, their compatriots in Norway have chipped in to give them a lifeline.
Gambian associations in Norway, myself and my good friend Marcel Jai, is to present this token amount to the disaster victim of Kuntaur.
The over 80,000 dalasi cash donations are intended to the emerging priority areas of intervention in the area, with specific focus on schools and health facilities which require rehabilitation.
The associations say that they feel that probably this is too little, but at least it's worth the while in contributing something towards this venture. And we do hope and pray that this amount would go into the areas that have been suggested.
The Vice President, Her Excellency Aja Fatoumata Jallow Tambajang, receiving the monies on behalf of the victims, commended the Gambian Association in Oslo and Bergen for reaching out to the flood victims.
This is, for us, a significant contribution which by no means going to impact positively on the victims, the priority needs of the victims of Kuntaur.
Madam Tambajang herself visited the scene in the aftermath of the incident to console and convey government's will to respond to the crisis, which was manifested by the presentation of food items and relief materials few days later. These donations, she however remarked and assured, will be used judiciously for its intended purpose.
We need every hand on deck to build a new Gambia anchored on peace, inclusive growth and sustainability.
Then on behalf of the office, we actually recognize your effort and assure you that the donations collected will be used for its intended purpose.
The flash floods in August were caused by an overflow of water from the swamps into the community due to the torrential rains on that fateful day. The runoffs wreak havoc to valuable properties, exposing the inhabitants to health risk. The victims later received an unprecedented response by a number of Gambian and non-Gambian philanthropists who presented cash, foodstuff, and relief materials to them. This intervention by the two Gambian associations based in Norway is highly expected to enhance their recovery process. Etienne Silva, GRTS News.
The chairman of the Commission of Inquiry probing into the financial dealings of former President Jammeh and her business associates Monday dismissed the application filed by Amadou Samba's lawyer for the interim order for the closure of assets belonging to Amadou Samba to be discharged. Yoro Jallow attended the proceeding and filed in this report.
The Commission Chairman, Surata Jane, has dismissed the application filed by Mary Samba, counsel for Amadou Samba, for the interim order for the closure or seizure of assets belonging to Amadou Samba to be discharged. He further ruled that the application made by Amadou Samba's counsel that he was not notified prior to issuing of the interim order cannot stand and therefore was dismissed.
We decline to offer guidance as a request for guidance on an order cannot be joined with an application to discharge the order. For all the reasons given, we are unable to resolve the issues for the termination of this application in favor of the applicant. Therefore, the application fails in its entirety and is dismissed.
Councillor Samba, however, applied to be availed with a copy of ruling and record of proceedings. She also applied to be given the opportunity to respond to the allegations made by witnesses against his client. The commission chairman then asked her to liaise with the secretariat to address those issues. Meanwhile, the commission was adjourned till the 7th of November 2017 for continuation. For GRTS News, this is Yero Jalo reporting.
The Chinese government has promised to enhance China-Africa cooperation, anchored on a win-win situation. China's ambassador to the Gambia, Jiang Ximing, made the remarks during a press briefing at the Chinese embassy in Banjul. As Ibrahima Jallo reports, the event was meant to update the media on the outcome of the recently ended 19th National Congress of the Communist Party.
Global significance, and that the country will further open to the world for development. The ambassador acknowledged rapid transformations in all sectors of development under the Communist Party of China.
As China develops, the CPC is also drawing the attention from the world. People around the world try to understand and decode what is the secret behind the China's development success.
Delegates from all socio-economic sectors voted in the 19th CPC Congress, in which President Xi Jinping was chosen to lead the country for the next 5 years. The Chinese are poised to building a modest, prosperous society by 2020, including reaching the poverty alleviation targets.
And last year, China's per capita GDP is about $8,200 US. And this year, China's per capita GDP is expected to reach $8,800 US. So it is developing very fast.
On foreign policy, he said, China will strengthen cooperation with Africa in pursuit of socio-economic and peaceful ventures based on mutual benefits.
Now China and many African countries are working closely with each other to have dialogues, to share experiences on how to achieve poverty alleviation and poverty eradication. So in many areas, policy-wise, practice-wise, in addition to financial or material assistance or expertise, technology assistance to the developing country.
The ambassador also responded to questions posed by journalists on issues surrounding the build-up to the success story of China's development as a country with over 1 billion people. Ibrahima Jallo, GRTS News.
Meanwhile, the Gambia's ambassador designate to China Monday arrived in Beijing. Fei Sise replaces Dembo Baji, who was ambassador since the resumption of the diplomatic ties with China in 2016. Hundreds of UDP supporters Sunday evening gathered at Banjul for a mass political rally. The meeting, graced by party leader Usainu Dabo, was meant to prepare the ground ahead of the 2018 area council elections. Kadiatu Jallo attended the rally.
The light turnout of Gambians to the rally, according to United Democratic Party leader Lawyer Usainu Dabo, has manifested the enthusiasm of Gambians about the UDP party.
This is one of the greatest meetings I've attended. It just shows the enthusiasm that the Gambian populace has for United Democratic Party. And in fact, this is, as it were, a warm-up to the area council elections and the mayoral elections that are due to take place next year.
Galvanizing their efforts throughout the country for better footing, Dabo expressed optimism that UDP will continue to prevail.
The 2018 elections, local government elections, UDP will prevail. That's our expectation. And we believe that that will also transcend and to 2020 or 2021 elections. Yeah.
Which means you are expecting more people from the other parties to join?
We are expecting a lot of people from the other parties to join. In fact, they were never members of the APRC. They were there because they feared, for their lives, some for their property.
Lawyer Dabo called for unity and respect for the rule of law among new and old members of the party for posterity. Ramatullah Sabali said she has spent 22 years with APRC party. She is now spearheading UDP sisters with the ambition of mobilizing more youths to support the party.
Kaje ko ka UDP baloni na consequence kaje ko ngake bakin fakilinti ka UDP baloni nyimbankunga.
Several party militants spoke at the rally, among them Honorable Seko Jaju of Busumbala constituency, Honorable Fatumata Jawara of Talending Kunja, and Aja Mariama Seka. They all spoke with one voice that UDP is a party that exists without discrimination for the development aspiration of the people of the Gambia. Khadija Tujalo, reporting for GRTS News.
The Minister of Agriculture, Omar Jallo, accompanied by a high-powered delegation, recently embarked on a tour of the country. The visit was meant to assess the level of agricultural productivity in the country, as well as assess the different projects under the Ministry of Agriculture. Famara Kanye accompanied the delegation.
From the North Bank region, communities assembled in village squares to welcome the Minister of Agriculture and delegation. Significant among the reasons for the tour was to have a direct contact with farmers and to assess the level of agricultural projects across the country. As the delegation drove to the hinterland, meeting several communities of the North Bank region, a stop at the old granite depot in Kaur has spotlighted a two-decade failure. The remnants of the First Republic's granite expansion project in Kaur still lie in ruins. The facility is no longer functional. This has impacted seriously on groundnut production, a crop that used to be one of the Gambia's main cash crops.
The groundnut coming to Kaur alone was about 30,000 tons. And they were decorticating here and moving it to Denton Bridge. So I couldn't imagine, I'm saddened to see today that none of the machines are operational in Kaur.
Reviving this very important center is a strong promise from the Agriculture Minister. The delegation crossed forth to other parts of the Central River region. The convoy drove from one project site to the other.
This is the period when we have actually revised our agriculture and natural resources policy. We have a new A&R policy. Now, coupled with that, we are also into a new planning phase for the agricultural investment plan, the famous GINAI, as you all might know. We had a first phase that lasted from 2011 to 2015, it expired, along with all other countries in ECOWAS. And we are all getting together, put together new agricultural investment plans.
The Gambia has a good record in cotton production, but for 22 years, this significant sector has been left to crumble.
We were second to Mali before the coup d'etat. And this was one of the best granaries given to us by the French government free of charge. We were exporting cotton next to Mali up to 1993.
The old cotton ginnery in Basse is about to fall in the hands of the military. Projects are doing well, changing the lives of beneficiary communities. For example, FASTEP, concentrating on horticulture, small ruminant rearing to aquaculture are sustained approaches to agricultural productivity.
We have established fish ponds, about 45 at the moment, and we are targeting up to 100 fish ponds for across the regions that we are intervening in. That is mainly West Coast, LRL, CRL, North and South. That's the 4 agricultural regions. And we have these small ruminant schemes, both fattening and breeding. We've seen 2 of them, one at Balangal Bentenki and the other one at Badumekoto, where we construct the infrastructure for the women farmers, predominantly women farmers.
Takalinding, Lower River region, a NEMA intervention site. This community is a beneficiary